Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning. Well, guys, new week, and we do got more going on this week. We'll come and look at the calendar in a little bit. Let's just take a quick look at the charts. I'm not expecting to see anything too crazy here. By the way, good morning, A. Paul Octavius. I'm so grateful that you guys are like, you're right here, even when I forgot to list the thing, you found it. So good job. All right, so here's the 10-year. We had an okay day on Friday and a little bit of extension over the weekend, but it is coming back here this morning. I should note, if we just come back over here to the main screen, like super tight. So it does not look like we're going to get very much action today, at least not from what I'm seeing on the price ladders here. All right, S&P 500 kind of just where it was. All right, oil's moving around a little bit this morning, but it is within its range. Gold kind of bouncing along the bottom of its range there. Silver, well, a little bit better, but tracking gold still. Copper, maybe a little bit of a downtrend coming through here, but this morning, a little bit of a jump. And the Japanese yen, well, now that's interesting, getting a little cup there. But the dollar is going sideways. And Bitcoin, well, Bitcoin had a little bit of back and forth here, but they are still above 95,000, so that's where we're at. Let's I'll zoom that out a little bit. I made sure to start the algorithm. It looks like it's already taken 2 failed trades. I would expect the algorithm to be really terrible. Did I not go back to the charts over here? Oh my gosh, I'm so dumb. Just make sure we get like all this gold, silver, copper, Japanese yen, Bitcoin. You say big change in, oh yeah, there is. It's actually a pretty significant selling cumulative delta.
Order canceled.
And we're getting a little bit of a sell here as well. It just got a big sell came through, 28.76. Now that is a little curious. That kind of seems like it is, I don't know. You typically don't do that if you've got a ton more coming, unless you really feel like you have to. Maybe we should be on guard here. I would still say, based on the pace and everything, that it's kind of suggesting that we're not going to get a whole lot today. And, you know, I think that makes a lot of sense if we come over. Oh, so the next thing. What kind of news do we got going? Well, today we got Goolsby is speaking right now. Oh, is that what it is? Oh, do I not have? I do have. Maybe I just need to refresh. I haven't heard anything from my news squawk yet. Okay. Vital says YouTube for some reason pumping live shorts, but not live horizontal videos, maybe to make another vertical one. Maybe. You know, something that really irks me. Wait, hold on. Let's finish this. We do have new home sales on Wednesday, durable goods, consumer sentiment. It's a little bit better than last week, but it's not super great. Next week will be the first of the month, and then you get things like, oh wait, that was looking at last week. Durr. There we go. Okay. I thought it was a little bit better because we do get non-farms, right? Yes, we get non-farms this Friday. We get ISM we get ISM PMIs. We get core PCE. We get Chicago PMI. Then we get like all of the employment ones like ADP and JOLTS. But not today. Today is the blank day. So I'm guessing that today is going to be relatively quiet, barring commentary, because the weekend and everything, you might get comments. And then things will pick up later in the week. Okay. Bassett made some comments about Uzi. There you go. Okay, what was I saying? Something that really irks me is that it seems to me that the whole point of TikTok was to sell us junk. To get people to watch lives and then to sell us junk on the lives. Am I wrong? Really feels like that's what it's about. And I hate that. Oh, Donald Trump speaking. America can no longer subsidize Canada. No movement over here, though. Now we don't have a 1st of May holiday in the United States. That's a holiday for communists. Donald Trump's talking about making Canada a 51st state again. I can't believe he keeps pushing this. Okay, so do you see the inside two prices have pulls, essentially? The below 1500. So some of the inside liquidity is a little bit, probably a little bit. Let me go and read what he said. It was on Truth Social. Good luck to the great people of Canada. Elect the man who has the strength and wisdom to cut your taxes in half, increase your military power for free to the highest level in the world, have your car, steel, and aluminum, lumber, energy, and all other businesses quadruple in size with zero tariffs or taxes. If Canada becomes the cherished 51st state of the United States of America, no more artificially drawn line from many years ago. Look how beautiful this landmass would be. Free access with no border, all positives with no negatives. It was meant to be. America can no longer subsidize Canada with the hundreds of billions of dollars a year that we have been spending in the past. It makes no sense unless Canada is a state. Okay. Wait, that's what you're saying when Canada's... You're trying to convince people to elect somebody? Okay. Maybe he does want liberals to stay in power in Canada. Is there any cyber attack? I haven't heard of anything. Anyways, Vital was saying I should make like a live horizontal or live vertical. I do have all the stuff to make it vertical, but I don't know, man. Maybe if we were like selling clothes. Right, that's the thing. Get everybody on their phone. You have more people on phones than on desktops. So you convince them to watch lives on their phone, and then they shop and they buy tons of clothes. Right, because people don't tend to impulse purchase like trading software, but they do tend to impulse purchase clothing. I don't know. So I have to switch. I'm wearing, you know, wearing a collared shirt today. Because that's like what people at the office wear. And I would have liked to have done it earlier, but, I was waiting for clothes to come in. It's like way more bright on the camera, though, than I expected. I should probably, maybe I should turn the light down. Oh, that's not even better. When you get it to 20, then my face is too dark. Or maybe I should switch to a slightly zoomed out, then you could see more of my clothes, but I don't think it matters. Maybe it matters, I don't know. If Trump sent our full military might to take I just think it's so funny that you guys think that that's like a legitimate question. He's totally in your guys' head. I don't know what his game here is, but I just think the whole Canada thing is hilarious. I just think it's hilarious. Do you know, like, when they were asking him about it the other day? Not the other day, it was a couple of months ago. And he was saying, well, like, apparently it's, like, advantageous for the administration here if Canada continues to have a liberal in power. Like, he said that. And he was kind of like, but I don't care. But now I'm kind of watching it. I'm like, maybe he actually does care, because it kind of feels like the conservative was going to win. I've never seen. In fact, I recall saying like something super crazy would have to happen for
order submitted
the conservatives to not win the next election, right? And then they did this thing to like delay the election so that the conservatives couldn't take over, and now I think they're going to have another one, but the conservatives aren't going to do very well because everybody in Canada is so uppity about Donald Trump saying that they should become the 51st state. I mean, of course, I wouldn't support it if they were trying to invade Canada, but it's just it's a ridiculous question. You're playing the media game, right? You're trying to get somebody to talk about something that is ridiculous and has a zero chance of happening because you think that talking about it supports your views and gets people thinking about things the way that you want to, when it's just a ridiculous scenario. And then when we see that there's, this is kind of a way to try and control the narrative and things, and we reject the question, and then you're like, well, why is that so hard to answer? Why can't you just talk? Why can't you just ask good questions? Just ask good questions. That would be a better thing, don't you think? You know what the funny thing about it actually is to me? This is the thing that's funny about it. Is that he is kind of right. Like, it would be better economically for everybody if Canada was part of the United States. I would not like it because I'm conservative, and it would probably skew elections in favor of liberal people, right? So I certainly wouldn't like it for it to happen. But like from an economic perspective, it would 100% make sense. Big time. Big time. But that's never going to happen. There's no way it's ever going to happen. Like, just look at how it, not only that, but I think that, well, you see how it went down in Europe, like how the European Union came about. And first of all, it was kind of like a slow thing, but then did that really end up being a good thing for like the rights of individuals and the people in the countries? And I don't think it did. So it's probably a good thing that it doesn't happen. But from an economic perspective, it 100% makes sense. You're drawing a parallel to Russia and Ukraine. I really don't think that that's the same thing. Okay, what if the thing I always joke about is like they try and make the parallel between Ukraine and try and say like what would be the situation like that for the United States, and what if Canada got taken over by some communist regime? Wouldn't you be like uppity about it and want to go in and do something and yada yada yada? And my answer was always, but Canada has been taken over by a communist regime and we're not doing anything. Okay, but okay, Canada has a pretty liberal prime minister. Canada is not like openly hostile to the United States, right? What if a regime set in Canada that was openly hostile to the United States? Well, I think that they would still do everything to avoid conflict. I don't know. It's the whole Ukraine situation and the way that it came about is I think very unfortunate, and I think that we have to say a bit of a miscalculation on the West's part, right? Because the whole thing is that this nationalist regime in Russia really thinks that for them to be safe, because they just don't trust anybody. And they're crazy like that. Even though we were pretty friendly at one point, they think that they have to control all of these different areas for Russia to be safe. And they want to take those places over. We in the West knew that that's the way that they felt. And we have competing interests, and we're worried about Russia, going invading Europe and things like that. And so we did things to prevent them from invading Europe. And I think that things were kind of like even until that political revolution in Ukraine. Right? And then that happened, okay. But then like dissidents in Ukraine wouldn't leave it alone, kind of gave Russia the excuse to move in. Not saying that it's right. Like at the end of the day, Russia should not have moved in. We should not allow them to move in without pushing back. But I think that those things are not like mutually exclusive, right? I think we did kind of miscalculate. I would hope there was a situation like that with Canada that they would not miscalculate that one, because man, if we had a war with Canada or something like that, it would either be like Canada would fall very, very quickly and just give in, or it would be a very, very ugly, bloody war. Do not think that we want to see that happen. No. What's this? I try to leave room for it's not as bad as I see. Wait, what? In reference to what? If I was Canadian, I'd bite Trump's hand off. Yeah, I mean, the thing that one of the things that I find kind of curious is that it really, really affected Canada's politics and how people feel and all of these things. While I'm sitting here laughing about it, I think it's funny. I genuinely think it's funny. How can everybody in chat? Oh, okay, well, let me go back. If I was Canadian, I'd bite Trump's hand off. But worse, I'm from the UK. Oof. In it, Bull. I mean, try to leave room for it's not as bad as I see on the internet, but even without doing that, it seems pretty bad. Oh, okay. I'm not 100% following the conversation. That would be hilarious if Canada would go down economically so bad that they would bag US to become the 51st state in 10 years or something. I mean, I don't think that it's completely unrealistic, but I mean, so Donald Trump does have a point here also that to some extent the United States is subsidizing Canada. And Canada has a lot of protectionist policies to basically protect its industries against competition from the United States. And if they didn't have those protections, like, ooh, geez, I don't know if they're, you know, I think that there are certain parts of their economy would definitely take a hit, and who knows where it would come out at the end. But there would be a lot of reshuffling around at the very least. Like if we really had true, complete free trade between the United States and Canada, I don't think that all industries would do well in that situation, right? You know, so is there a scenario where like things go bad for Canada and then they do become a state? I suppose. But again, there's like too many political barriers to making it happen. It makes sense economically though. How come maybe it's okay. I'm not. How far am I not going back far enough? Okay, Brad said, just wait next till he wants to purchase Mexico. Michael said, I think Trump's game is you can't support anybody who doesn't have a sense of humor. Amanesh says, why is that hard to answer? If we did, would you then acknowledge Canada should just surrender? Well, in a situation like that, that would probably be the least bloody outcome. Okay. Hey, Amanesh, did you forget we're just some people trying to trade on computers? Why don't you go talk to people who care? Amanesh, no, I'm drawing a parallel to Russia and Ukraine. PayPal, no, you're not obligated to partake in the conversation. And Estefa says HIK. I don't know what that meant. And all for a simple math. If I was Canadian, I'd bite Trump's hands off. But worse, I'm from the UK. Newsy said, oof. I mean, try to leave room for it's not as bad as I see on the internet, but even with doing that, it seems pretty bad. I still don't understand what you're referring to. Okay. I'm from the UK, isn't it, bro? I try to be fair, but it seems bad. Okay. You're referring to that? I don't know. Okay. I felt like your response was a little bit too, what would I say? Like, by the way, is the robot doing the right thing here? It is short. I guess your response was just seemed like more extreme to me than probably you meant or something. I guess the thing is that none of us really understand what Donald Trump is doing. Yeah, you confuse when we're talking to you and when we're talking to each other. Yeah. But that was the thing, is that I couldn't, your response seemed like a relatively aggressive pushback, and I couldn't see anything that you guys had said to each other that seemed like it was, you know, would have justified a response like that. You know what? The cumulative delta through the whole night was to the downside, and it is following through. I think that it'll probably be a tough Like, we might get a little bit of a liquidity hole start to form here at 10, and then maybe it go down lower. So it'll probably be like a super, super, super slow trend, but it is selling. Might be weird. Anyways, the issue with the Canada issue is that nobody really knows, or I don't think that anybody really understands what he's thinking. I think my first impression is he's joking. Donald Trump is joking about it. He's just saying it because he thinks it's funny. But then we get the reaction. Everybody reacts negatively to it. It's hurting conservatives in Canada, and he keeps doing it. And that means that either A, he just can't help himself, or B, there is some sort of deeper strategic reason for it. And people are kind of split on that, right? Okay, and then if it is a strategic reason, people are kind of split on that. Some people would think that he really genuinely wants to take over Canada, or B, somehow it helps him in negotiations or some other political reason. Now, I really don't know. I can't read his mind. It's kind of weird that he keeps talking about it. It's kind of weird that he keeps talking about it. Right? Amanesh obviously thinks that he genuinely wants to take over Canada because it's like manifest destiny and it would be part of his legacy that he brought Canada into the Union. I kind of think that it's maybe it could be a little bit of everything. Like, I think maybe it's a little bit him being a clown. It's a little bit like he actually does think that, things would be better if Canada was a state.
Order submitted.
He was silver spoon, multi-millions needed. Yeah, okay. That's something that I tell you what. This is something that I think people get wrong. When talking about Donald Trump, they say, he was only successful because he was born into wealth. And then when you factor that in, he hasn't actually been all that successful because he's had so many failed businesses, right? And when I see people talk about that, I'm immediately, okay, here's people that don't understand how it works. Donald Trump is a person that came in, saw a system, understood how to take advantage of that system, and did it. And was probably one of the most successful people in history at doing that, even before he became president. And part of that game is taking risks. And in some cases, taking really stupid risks that make absolutely zero sense. And there's absolutely no way that that's going to work out. But that's what you got to do. And if you look back on almost everything that he's done and the way that he's gone about it, there is always this element of like excessive risk to it. And that's how he was able to build his fortune up so much from what he was given from his parents. Now, Elon Musk is the exact same. Elon Musk is the exact same. This is somebody that understands how to take risk and does it. He takes big risks. And that's how Tesla, and because Tesla in particular was a huge risk, man. I remember when he bought Tesla. I remember seeing it on Reddit and people talking about when he bought. It wasn't Reddit, it was Dig back then. But I remember when he bought Tesla, and everybody said that it was a bad play. And every step along the way, there's been skepticism about Tesla, and I certainly do. I wouldn't buy one of their cars. I think they're trash. But he's made insane amounts of money, and then he's always doing this stupid shit like borrowing against his stock and loading up on all these crazy things. He became the richest man in the world because he took excessive risks and he made it. And he kind of understands that you don't have to win every time. You just have to win big enough on one or two of your plays to really become like truly rich. And that is it. Like, if you want to become a millionaire, billionaire, then you have to go and take lots of risks. And like, it kind of applies to trading too. Like, the people that you're going to see in trading that really make the most money from trading are the idiots. The people that have no clue what they're doing, and they just take big trades, and eventually they get lucky. And then everybody's like, oh, if I want to be a successful trader, I should follow them. When they're probably like the worst person, like, the chances of you having success from following what they did is like 1%. They've all at some point tapped into that nebulous blob of government subsidy points. Yeah, that's true too. That's true too. Once you get to that level, there's some degree of, I don't know how I would put it, collaboration with the government. Oh, I wasn't quite sure what Naman was asking, but what you trading. So we trade treasury futures, and we watch the equity indexes. I have an algorithm that takes trades, but it's pretty terrible trading today for it. I was thinking about it, like, what if I changed the thresholds instead of it being 3 to be like 5 to 10? It would trigger less, but it wouldn't help it because it's not a very directional market. It is slow trending down, but it's like, it takes like freaking 20 minutes for it to break out of the range. If you can't acknowledge that starting your business life with 250 million or so, how much did he actually start with? Was it 250? Okay, he claims that he started with a $1 million loan. But some other people claim that through tax dodging and all of this, that they got 413 million. But to go from what he started with to what he's had is still really, really impressive. What is so demonstrable is that Trump didn't screw it up. No. I don't think. Well, okay. You're going in a completely different direction from me, right? Because what I'm saying is, it's not about you got it right or you didn't. It's about taking risk overall, right? You can't really, I don't think that you can necessarily look at these really successful businessmen and say, okay, let's look at the totality of their businesses and how successful they were and make a conclusion about their competence. That's correct, but it's still a huge advantage. Well, of course it's a huge advantage, but what is your point? See, I think the point that you're trying to make is that Donald Trump is an incompetent idiot and that he's only rich because he had a lot of money to start with. But that doesn't make sense once you understand how it works. He took big risks and he grew that money big time in a way that few others have. And he did it. He played the game, and that was the game. That's the game, is to take risks. It was successful. And in other words, you can't really look at the risks that somebody takes in a business and really make a good conclusion about whether or not they'll be a good president, frankly. Anybody that has had a lot of success in business, I would expect there to be a trail of carnage and destruction behind them with lots of failed businesses. No one's denying that. It's like winning the lottery. That's a huge advantage, but nearly everyone who does that winds up broke. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. If you're rich and you start with $1 million loan or whatever it is from your parents, and you don't grow that wealth to some degree or another, and what percentage of people will do it? I don't know. I would venture to guess maybe like a quarter of people do it. It's like we're all in a 1 mile race, but some of us get 7th to 8th mile head start. No. So the thing is that you just don't understand what the game actually is. Like, yes, you can start with $1 million, but you know that there's ways to raise money too, right? Did you know that Jeff Bezos started Amazon with $10,000? Started it with $10,000. He took out a loan. He raised money from his community, from his friends and family. Does one require coding skills for algorithmic trading? I would say right now, yes. Trying to chat GPT it doesn't work very well. But the good news is that the kind of programming chops that you need to program things, especially in NinjaTrader, is not that sophisticated. So just start learning now. It's probably a skill that I feel like everybody should have, even though they're saying like the robots are going to take over and everything. But I digress. Nah, see, I think it's funny because you guys will say some things that I feel like kind of support my view, but then you'll say there's something that you'll say in it that's like, no. So let's back up for a second. What are we trying to do? What's the bigger goal here? The bigger goal is to help people understand how the system is and the best ways to navigate that system. By the way, day trading probably not the best way to navigate that system, okay? But you learn a lot from day trading, and I love doing it, and it's probably one of the best ways to teach about these things, okay? One of the big things that kind of is holding people back, the thing that prevents us from understanding the system, is a set of basic assumptions that we're taught from children, that are just completely wrong. For instance, if I am smart, then I'll be rich. if I do a good job, then I'll be rich. Rich people, they deserve the riches that they have because they earned it, etc., 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 right? That's not true. This all implies that markets are informationally efficient, that the market picks who are the best people and rewards them accordingly, and that's not actually how it works. It's how we want it to work. It's kind of like a aspirational, but it doesn't actually work that way. It doesn't actually work that way. The market is not informationally efficient. Current prices do not reflect all available information. So what is actually the best way to navigate the system? It is not to, like if you want to become a millionaire or billionaire, I'm not saying this is the path that everybody should take, but if the path is really to get to the top, then you shouldn't be, I'm going to be the smartest person and I'm going to do everything right all the time. No, it should be come in and do degenerate shit and take big, dumb risks. And if you come in and you start doing that from a young age, when you have the ability to take big risks, you can be quite successful with it. And that's how people like Jeff Bezos become billionaires. So like, because Jeff Bezos, so the reason I'm getting all of that is because Uzi said, meanwhile, you're broke and whining on the internet because you're smarter. Maybe if we gave you $1 million, you'd do better. Well, I take issue with that comment because that kind of implies that you'd be richer if you were smarter or something like that. When it's not the case. Why is Elon Musk a billionaire and Amanesh probably isn't? It's probably because Amanesh has never really taken super serious risks in his life. Go put everything on the line, working to start a company. Hey, and you know what the thing is? The thing is you don't even necessarily have to do it when you're young. But, like my understanding is that most successful entrepreneurs are like in their 40s when they do it. 40s and 50s. But you have to take risks. Now, Donald Trump was able to take risks because he got money from his family. That's one way of doing it, but that's not the only, like the whole thing, the thing that's crazy about it is that the system provides all sorts of ways for you to raise money and take risks like that people don't take advantage of. Like, why were we not borrowing, hundreds of thousands of dollars when interest rates were practically zero during COVID to start new businesses? We could have done that. Well, I don't think that I had the idea. I don't think I had the vision back then. Now I kind of have the vision and the fundraising opportunities are tight. But eventually they'll come in and maybe we'll do it. But I'm not necessarily the guy that takes risk, and I don't necessarily have to take risk. Does that mean that somebody is going to be a good president? No, it doesn't. It doesn't. I think that it kind of helps to have a president that has been on the business side and understands some of these things, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be a good president. Like, what makes you a good businessman or what makes you a good millionaire, billionaire, whatever, is taking risks. That doesn't necessarily translate over to politics very well. Politics, you kind of have to play it safe. Because in politics, like the business world will forgive you over and over and over and over and over again. Just like it has Donald Trump. The political world, it's like you screw up once and you're done for. Except for that, this is kind of where it gets interesting with Donald Trump, is that he's been able to use his business acumen and he's been able to make it translate over into politics in a way where even though he makes tons of big mistakes and tons of people hate him, he still continues to have success. But, I personally don't think that it's necessarily good economic strategy to take risks with like your tax policy and tariffs and all of this sort of stuff. I really don't. But at the same time, like if we have a real systemic issue here, we really do need to restructure our economy in different ways because too many people are being left behind, which I really do believe is true. Then you are going to have to take some risks to make that happen, and you're going to have to ruffle some feathers. And it seems to me like Donald Trump is the only person in the world that would actually do that. And he has. Call Bernie Madoff, Michael Milken. Well, I mean, the thing that's, especially with Elizabeth Holmes, the thing that's crazy about Elizabeth Holmes is that she probably would have had insane levels of success if she hadn't lied about it. Like she did the fundraising, she did all this stuff. And then it was like we're building this machine that was just completely fabricated, that didn't exist whatsoever. And if they had just taken the L, if they had just said, okay, you know what, it didn't work out, she probably would have started another business and eventually would have been successful. And she let her ego get in the way. I'm trying to make the same argument here, though, right? That's the thing that holds you back, is you think, well, I can't do this, I shouldn't do this because I'll fail, and then if I fail, I'm a loser, or whatever the deal is. You notice, when I was unemployed, and it could happen again, because, you know, the job that I'm doing right now is only like a three-month contract to hire. And I think that they should hire me. It really sounds like they like me so far. But the budget might not be there. Might not have anything to do with me. And then I'll be on the lookout again, right? But never once did I ever say, this is happening to me because I am just a failure at life. I screwed up somewhere along the way. And no, never once. I got super down about it. I really hated the way the interest rates were. I really hate the way that the job market is structured right now. I think there's some real problems with the job market because I see a lot of like companies they're trying to hire, but they can't seem to get the people. They can't seem to find the candidate that they're looking for. And I can remember many times where I went to interview. And I feel like I can do just about anything technical, but, you know, if it's something a little bit outside of my wheelhouse, I kind of have to study up a little bit, right? And
order canceled.
What they were interviewing for was completely not what they were advertising. That was really frustrating to me, right? But I never sat down and said, well, this thing that has happened to me says something fundamental about me and who I am. The market has decided that I am worth less. Never once. Why? Because I know markets are not informationally efficient. Elizabeth Holmes, she was a narcissist, and the thing that happens with the narcissist is it won't let them make those kinds of realizations. Like they have to do everything possible. They're not comfortable with loss. They're not comfortable. Other people think less of you. For me, I don't give a shit. Doesn't matter what other people think. It doesn't really factor into my thinking whatsoever. But that's what leads people like Elizabeth Holmes to start lying about things. So the answer is that Elizabeth Holmes actually, obviously she broke the law. But I think that if she had not broken the law, I think that she would have been a successful business person, yes. Because she understood how to take risks and how to play that system, that game. And she did it. And she had the wherewithal to do it. And she raised the company up from very, very young. From practically nothing. And it all would have been fine. Like, I'm telling you, people would have forgiven her if she had just acknowledged after they started the company and they started going into it that the tech wasn't going to work. Frankly, same with maybe Bernie Madoff is kind of the same thing that's going on, but I wouldn't say that there was anything in what Bernie did that suggests good business acumen to me.
Order canceled.
And I'm not sure who you're talking about with Milken and Milton, but there are probably many other people that we can look at. But I think with Holmes in particular, that's somebody that probably would have been successful if she'd just been honest. I guess with Bernie Madoff too, because the whole thing is like Bernie Madoff, he took a certain loss and it was with like his friends' funds and stuff like that. You don't want to acknowledge it, right? If he had acknowledged that, I don't think that he would be a household name or anything, but I don't think that he would be impoverished. I think he would have done okay. I think he probably would have been okay. I could easily argue anyone who had the chops to become a huge business success. No, I wouldn't say that anybody that chose fraud, that they would have been successful without the fraud. But I'm saying in that particular case is one that kind of proves the thing that I'm trying to teach you here, right? What leads to big time success? Taking risks. If you really want wealth, you should dedicate all of your time, one skill, taking risk. Number 2, have integrity. Have integrity, that's a big one, okay? Then you get into integrity, excellence, and teamwork, okay? You have integrity, excellence, and teamwork, and you understand how to take risks, eventually you will find wealth. Maybe not a millionaire, maybe not a billionaire, but eventually it will work out for you. Because it's fat tail distribution, man. And once you've had a little bit of success, and then you build on that, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. You continue to take big risks. Michael Milken, yeah, no, I don't think I have heard of him before. It must have been something in the 80s. Now to tie it back, now that we understand the point that I'm the important thing, now we can go back and we can kind of address the reason that the topic came up, which was, does success in business suggest that somebody can be a successful president or successful politician? No. It would be really useful if more of our elected leaders understood business issues, understood international trade. Donald Trump understands it maybe a little bit more than other presidents, but what he really understands is to take risks, and he does it in his politics. Is that a good way to run the country? I guess we'll find out. It kind of seems to me that in Trump's first term that he took a lot of risks and it kind of was a wash for the most part. Now he's going even bigger. Well, at first, it was looking really, really awful. But the S&P 500 has recovered. In fact, let's come over here and look real quick. Because S&P 500 is on the uptrend. Looks like they're going to break Friday's high. Well, we still got a ways to go. We still got a ways to go to recovering here, right? It seems that the market has decided that the business community talked Donald Trump into backing off. And I don't really know where we go from here. But the market has decided that at least the current situation is workable. It'll take some time. Let's see what happens. I think it's better for a president to be financially successful, as then he or she won't need sponsors who are almost always evil. Unfortunately, the issue there, Vital, is that I don't think that there is any way to get away from that. In fact, it is a feature of democracy. It is a feature of democracy. The leaders of a country are never going to be successful, and a country is never going to be successful if everything that they are doing is directly counter to what the wealth in the country is, right? And what we've done, the reason that democracy works or republic works, is that it aligns the incentives of the politicians with the majority of people. With the majority of people. Not all people, but a majority of people. But that still means that there are special interests and moneyed interests, let's say. There's still moneyed interests that will exert power, right? And you as a politician, if you get into power, of course you can uproot corruption and you can upset that order to some extent, but only to some extent. Once you get to a point where what you're doing is bad for the majority of people, then it's not going to work, right? So the whole thing about like money in politics, you can't get away from it. You can't get away from it. But at the same time, look at how things have been going the last few years. Like as much as everybody freaks out about Citizens United and how much money has gotten involved in politics, because it really is quite astounding, the explosion in spending on elections with super PACs and advertising and all of that. But for all of the hyperventilating about that, it is not the richest guy. It is not the one with the most money that is winning. Donald Trump spent less last election. Well, there's a small part of how I measure success. That's nebulous, because succeeding at something is how you measure success. You're hungry, you eat. You succeed at eating. You're trying to differentiate between success and being. Yeah. Well, I mean, the point is that being successful at business does not necessarily mean that you're a good person, and it does not necessarily speak well of you. It doesn't speak poorly of you either. The people make the opposite mistake too, right? They're not correlated. I do think it is important to point out, though, that you can be successful by being a good person. Or, a good person is like kind of nebulous too. So let's make it even more nebulous, right? Does that make you valuable to society? Right? Because again, part of this mistake is that because we believe that markets are informationally efficient, we have decided that how much money you make is the measure of how valuable you are to society, and that's not true. there are many hugely, hugely valuable people to the success of this country that get paid jack squat. Because why? Because how much you get paid, like your salary is a function of supply and demand and not a function of how valuable it actually is to the society. Morality is a huge factor in how success is. I mean, I don't really think that it is. If you want to mow your lawn, but you do it while thinking about how your neighbor is a douchebag, did you not succeed in mowing your lawn? Zayn Ali, yeah, I remember you from the other day when I didn't remember you. Final said he thinks it's better the president has money than argue that he's under the impression he didn't take money. No. I think physical fitness is a bigger part of being a successful person than wealth. I think that you are okay. So as soon as you talk about physical fitness, that makes me think that your definition of success is actually happiness, right? At which point I would say, actually, how happy you are and how much success you've had in business are like inversely correlated. To have that degree of success, you probably had to go through a lot of miserable stuff. You probably had to put your body through a lot of miserable stuff. According to Uzi, Jesus was a loser. Well, now you're just straw manning. I was hoping I could avoid sweating too badly this morning, but I don't think I'm being successful. Yep, it's showing through a little bit. I know with these shirts I got like a slimmer cut, and it's not bad, but it's still like if I want to lift my arms up, I guess I'll make the shirt come out a little bit so that I can put my arms up. All physical fitness nowadays is defined as having a bunch of steroids and eating like crap and just having a body bigger than a car. It so much is, Ellie. I tell you what, man, social media has distorted our views of the body like insane, because I am extremely fit. I mean, I am probably more fit than like 95, if not 98% of people. I am not physically gifted whatsoever. It's just I did something that is, you know, I did Olympic weightlifting, and that's pretty high up on the, you know, the demands, you know, and I done it well into old age. But I don't think that most people would see that just from looking at me. I do think though, like one of the things that I'm starting to see, so like this is the thing with oh man, I tell you what, it's such a fascinating thing about humans, right? Is we have to show that we're better than everybody else, right? humans really care about the social hierarchy. This whole thing, like, they say, like, are you alpha? And that whole term came from a study on wolves, and they found there was one wolf that was kind of like the alpha wolf and the alpha female or whatever, and they were the leaders, right? And then later, they started applying that to humans, and later they were like, no, that's not how wolves work, actually. It's just that was mom and dad. Those were the oldest wolves. I think that was projection. I think that it seems to me that humans care about social hierarchy, and we kind of like intuitively understand it. Most people intuitively understand social hierarchies, and is just a part of being human. And so you're always trying to find some way to signal that you are higher up on the social hierarchy than other people. And in our society, the social hierarchy is largely whether you are rich or not, right? And so the rich people will want to wear things and do things to signal that they are higher up on the hierarchy. And then all of the poor people try to do things to copy them so that they look like they're higher up on the hierarchy too. And it's kind of gotten to the point now where it's really, really hard for the rich to differentiate themselves, because like they go and they buy this bag that's got this luxury brand name on it, and then somebody can go and buy the exact same bag for like a quarter of the cost. And so now they're kind of shifting things out, right? Well, one of the things that I think was kind of a differentiating a way that you did differentiated was, like poor people tend to be more fat because you don't have access to as good of food. And now we have Ozempic, right? So now everybody will be skinny. It's, I don't think that most people have realized, but I think it really is going to be the case 30 years from now that there's just not fat people. You will get to there'll be a certain amount of overweight. They'll just put you on Ozempic. That's serious. I'm being dead serious here. That's where I think it's going. And so being skinny is no longer really means anything, right? So it is very much going to be going more into that you put muscle on, right? But then the problem is with that is that, especially when you're wearing regular clothes, people can't really see how muscular you are. And it's very genetically based. So what are they going to do? Where's it going to go? I don't know. For me, rich is who does not need to stress about making more money and having beautiful family and great fitness. Well, sure, Zane. But I mean, that's why most people do not become millionaires, right? It's because they get to the point in they accumulate enough wealth for them to be comfortable and get what they want. And it's only the people that are really, really crazy and have a chip on their shoulder, or they're a narcissist or whatever, that really have that desire to climb to the very, very top that become super rich. Yeah, well, so I don't know. Amanish hasn't really made a whole lot of really good. I kind of, so I think that when it starts, right, he's just like, well, here would be some conversation that I can derail things with, right? And every once in a while, I will see a reason to kind of go and take a stand on that or talk about a particular issue, right? But he very quickly just evolves into nonsense, like where and it's not like the individual points in and of themselves. These are all points that we've seen somebody make before, right? Like Donald Trump isn't that rich compared to other. That's something that I see on Reddit all the time, right? But where there's no point. There's no overarching point. It's just like he hates Trump and he wants to come in here and cause chaos. And there's no overarching strategy. It's like a, you know, it's like a puppy. It just can only go after the one thing that's right in front of them with whatever they can come up with, and there's no like grander vision. He's your biggest fan, obviously. It's the really funny thing. To me, I don't necessarily care that Donald Trump is president. I mean, I'm gonna vote for somebody. I voted for him. I voted what I thought was the best of the options that were in front of me. I am not the person that sits here and thinks, if I can just get my guy in office, then everything will be better. Why? Because I understand that that's not how things work. Thinking that if we can just get this one guy in office, oh, Bernie Sanders, he really gets it and he's really honest. If we could just get Bernie Sanders into office, then everything would be better. Okay, when you start feeling that way, that just means you've fallen for it. That just means you've fallen for it. Okay, it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. That's not the way that reality works. That's the way that humans want to believe that reality works. That there's good and there's bad, and if I always do the things that are good, then everything should turn out well for me. But the nature of complexity is as such that everybody could be doing their very best to be quote-unquote good, and the end result at the high level ends up being bad. Because the reality is that we are not sophisticated enough. We do not have enough knowledge to understand how our individual behaviors will sum up together and result in higher level behavior. So we could all be doing something that we think is good, but then those things combine together to result in something at the high level that is explicitly bad. And that's exactly what happens. And it doesn't necessarily matter who you elect to office, because those effects are always there. And basically all you can do is, you know, understand that system to design the best system that you can and deal with the inevitable issues that come along afterwards. Because it will always be like that. It will always be like that. Let me tell you something. I'll say something heretical again, but like in my religion, this is not heretical. Okay. Not even the system that God sets up is like that, right? Because if that's the way that it actually worked, it was just there was good, and you do the good things and everything will turn out correctly, then you wouldn't have. Why does God come down and interfere in the affairs of man all the time, right? To have angels come along, the whole Moses thing. Like why does it? Shouldn't it just be he sets his system like God is a watchmaker? Shouldn't it just be like God is a watchmaker? He's perfect. He sets up this perfect system and then just kind of lets it go. But that's not what he does. He gets directly involved in the affairs of men. Why is that? Because the nature of reality and the nature of complexity is as such that you can't create this huge complex system that does exactly what you want it to do all the time. Sometimes you're going to have to come in and explicitly modify that system a little bit. You have to get involved. And that's the way that it works. So what is my job? My job is not to get a certain person into power or out of power. My job is to understand the system as well as possible and to help other people understand it. Trading is a really great vehicle for us to do that. And now he's just spazzing it. I don't know. Yeah, I don't think he really knows. He probably doesn't know how to respond. Maybe that means that he finally is realizing what the discussion is actually about, and that it wasn't what he thought it was about, right? Because everybody assumes, this is the thing that we humans do, is we project, right? They assume that everybody else and their goals are the same as their own goals. Or they assume that everybody else's goals are the same as their goals. So if their goal is to influence people into moving in a certain political direction, then they assume that that's what everybody else is doing as well. But that's not what we're doing. I don't think that a liberal person would super enjoy my stream, but my objective is not to be explicitly conservative or liberal. My objective is to understand the system and why things turn out the way they do. In my opinion, Donald Trump is an inevitability. If it wasn't Donald Trump, it'd be somebody else. And sometimes I think that maybe we should be grateful that it's Donald Trump and not somebody else. Because it's definitely a situation that somebody could use to really seize power, you know? And maybe it's because Donald Trump is just is good enough that that's not what he's doing, or maybe it's that he's just incompetent enough that he can't just straight up seize power. But this is a kind of a situation that kind of leads to a mustache man or whatever the deal is. Because the reality is that for the last 30, and perhaps maybe even going back as far as 50 years, we have created an economy that leaves a huge section of the population behind. It's just that's straight up what it is. That's straight up what it is. And what happened was, the Democrat Party was the one that was kind of we don't know about this. And then they elected Barack Obama, who went all in on the existing thing because that was where the power was. Obama basically went all in on power, made it worse, and took it to the breaking point. And that was Donald Trump. It's going to lead to AOC? I don't think so, because I think that AOC is too much a part of the existing power structure still. Bernie maybe could have done it, but I really think people underestimate how much Americans dislike socialism. I think that if the thing I always see on Reddit is well, if it had just been Bernie Sanders, right? They're still butthurt about the Clinton-Sanders primary race. And they think that if Bernie Sanders had won that primary race, Donald Trump wouldn't have come to power and none of this would be happening. And we'd be on track to a better United States or whatever the deal is, right? But I think that if Bernie Sanders had become the Democrat nominee, that Trump would have beat him even harder than he did Hillary. I don't think it would have even been close. Because Americans don't like socialism. Well, I tell you what, the treasuries here sure did flip back around pretty hard. Of course, our robots trading has been pretty awful today, but it's got a good 5 ticks on this one. Actually, looking at it, I'm surprised. Okay, so there was this long and it took 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It took a -6 on that one. Wow. Oh, wow. It was super late on that move, wasn't it? That's interesting. Let AOC run against Vance. It's super bizarre to me that Vance AOC sounds like a reasonable 2028 matchup. But it is like, I really don't think that there's a higher profile Democrat. I would argue that if they're smart, that they would pick Shapiro as their nominee right now. Honestly, if Harris had been smart, she would have picked Shapiro. I wonder, do you think that her picking Shapiro would have been enough to move the needle? I'm not sure that it would have. But Waltz definitely didn't help. At the very least, Waltz didn't help her. Fox News polls Trump 100-day approval rating is the lowest since they've been conducting the 100-day poll. But isn't that kind of like, I mean, what I would like to see is a second term, right? Because it's kind of a weird situation where he was not in office for 4 years. I don't know if you certainly couldn't compare his approval rating to somebody who just became president for the first time, right? But I would expect his approval rating to still be low. Actually, no. Let me back up. Okay, Donald Trump has a low approval rating. Why do you care? So this is another fallacy, right? This is the fallacy that the majority of people are correct, and that's absolutely not the case. Popularity and correctness do not really, you're trying to say that because he has a low approval rating, that must mean that he is a really bad president. But I don't think that those two things correlate. Doesn't surprise me that he's an unpopular president at the moment. Similarly, seeing Obama with a super high approval rating doesn't say to me that Obama was a good president. I tell you what, man, Obama got away with so much shit. Shouldn't swear like that, but gosh. Like so many of the, like for millennials, it irks me to no end that millennials don't realize that all of the things that they complain about, all of the things that they hate, like their excessive student loans, the high cost of housing, high cost of medical care, all of the things holding you back, it's because of Obama. It really is. If the polls are right, Kamala would be president. Shapiro sounds like Ben Shapiro. Legacy media doesn't have enough cash to high up AOC's reputation. That's probably true. Like that's the thing that's crazy about it, right? Is that right now AOC seems like the most viable choice for them, and that is not a good choice. she has extremely, I mean, like Donald Trump in office, very polarizing, right? I think that AOC would be even more polarizing. I'm saying only 44% of people surveyed based on their current life thinks, okay, but why do we care? I think so this is something I think super bizarre, is like a politician comes in and says, I'm going to restructure the entire economy. And people think that it should just be sunshine and rainbows every day from the moment that they that they get elected until the day that they leave office. Like, no, it doesn't work that way, dude. Like, remaking the economy means a lot of upheaval, and it's probably going to mean a lot of economic pain for people in the short term, because anybody that was really, really benefiting from that system is going to not benefit as much. Like, yeah. Quite frankly. So here's the thing that I think is crazy, okay? When Donald Trump was elected, I thoroughly expected that we would see some degree of a market decline. I was kind of surprised that it didn't happen until until several months after he was elected, right? When he really started pushing the tariff stuff. Before that, the market was perfectly fine with it, and I was kind of surprised by that. Because I've been expecting like a 20% decline or something like that. And then he started, doing all of the tariff stuff. And, business leaders came in and, let me back up a second. He started doing the tariff stuff, and it was way worse than I thought. Like, I was expecting a 20% decline, and then Donald Trump's tariffs were way worse than I thought that they would be. And the market did not decline as much as I thought. And now it's kind of backed off, and the market's kind of like not too sure what's going to happen. So I don't know if that means that like he's already failed and he's going to be backing off. That's kind of the impression that I'm getting from the market, that's what they think. But it's just curious. But here again, I have to remember, like, the market's not informationally efficient. I think that there's a lot of information that we have out there that suggests to me the market could move lower at some point. I hope not, but it's super crazy to me that people think that, like, you're going to completely rework world trade, and there's not going to be short-term economic pain from that. Probably going to be a year or two of economic pain from that. I think that their objective... on the other hand, I also think that this market decline was probably more than Donald Trump expected. Like he knew that there was going to be short-term economic pain, but I think that it was more pain than he was expecting, and that's why he backed off. Well, anyways, I should get going, guys. It's an interesting move here in the treasuries today, because this, it was pretty strong selling coming into this, and it has come back up pretty hard on not a lot of change in cumulative delta. But there was definitely a strong move in the Japanese yen, so I think that that's what was driving it, and the dollar down. So, the S&P 500 is selling off at the same time. Well, I would say that this rise started before the S&P 500, but now the S&P 500 is falling. So, wondering if something is going on in currencies and so forth, right? But I will... Okay, and our algorithm is +8, so it's got 2 more ticks. We'll take a good winner. Gotta find a better filter, guys. Gotta find a better filter. All right. I should get going. I will see you guys tomorrow. Stay excellent, team.